A lot of people look at sustainable lifestyle as a step back, as they have to give up on luxury or comfort. Um, but it's if you don't look at it that way, or you have to give up on meat or clothes or whatever it is that you're giving up on, if you look at it in a different way, there is a lot of joy in there as well. You can enjoy the clothes that you've been wearing for so long because they are actually your favorite and you thought about purchasing them for a long time before you purchased them, etc.
Yeah.
And usually when you shop less and consume less, you have more time, so you can, for instance, go and take a hike in nature, or go on a small trip, or have a vegetable garden and learn about these things. So it also
Mm.
brings a whole it opens up a whole new world for you with possibilities and joy.
Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Dirk-Jan Hupkes, and on this podcast I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech. Thank you for listening to episode 61. How can we live a more sustainable life? If you're looking for an answer to that question, you'll probably find yourself flooded with well intended advice, books, blogs, YouTube channels, and of course, podcasts. And like many others, you'll likely end up with analysis paralysis. You'll end up wondering, what is a sustainable lifestyle? What is sustainable food? And how do you travel and build sustainably? To answer these questions and to learn how diversity positively influences a sustainable lifestyle, I interview Asceline Groot and Wieke Potjer. Together, they run the Dutch sustainability platform hetkanwel.nl. With their platform and their book, they want to inspire people to live a greener, fairer, and happier life. So, in this podcast, we'll talk about rebuilding hetkanwel.nl into a platform for green, fair, and happy living, about their own experiences, their best practices, and struggles when it comes to sustainability, and of course, about their book with stories from pioneers in the field of sustainable living. So, when you're ready for practical advice on living a sustainable life, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Asceline Groot and Wieke Potjer. Hey, good morning, Wieke and Asceline. Good to have you. Question I always ask at the start of the interview is how you got into your current job or current position. And Asceline, take it away.
Well, thank you. My name is Asceline Groot and I'm from The Hague. And together with Wieke Potjer, I run Het Kan Wel. And I've my whole career I've worked in sustainability, running different online and offline communities for a
Mhm.
Dutch newspaper and a Dutch sustainable bank, supporting social entrepreneurs. And when I moved abroad, I was working on my PhD, and I really wanted to stay connected to the Dutch sustainability movement. And then I knew Het Kan Wel from my previous job. So I contacted Wieke and asked, hey, Wieke, can I write for you and be part of the team? And yeah, that's how we got connected. Yes.
Okay. And Wieke?
Well, I am a freelance journalist, so I've worked as a freelance journalist for many, many years. And at a certain point, there was a vacancy for a content manager at Het Kan Wel. And a friend of mine sent me the vacancy because she said it's really something for you, because you're not only a freelance journalist who can do the job, but you're also very passionate about sustainability and sustainable lifestyle. So
Mhm.
that's how I got involved with the website. First, for like 5, 6 hours a week to be a content manager. That's how I got in touch with Asceline. Like she just said, she called me to ask if she could write for the platform, which was, of course, very nice. and it immediately clicked between us. So when we had the questions in 2018, I believe it was, to take over the website entirely and to run it by ourselves, that's what we did.
Okay. So actually, it already existed before you both joined.
Yeah, it's been there since 2005.
Whose idea was it, out of curiosity?
There were two men, Matthijs Sinot and Martin van der Meulen, which is interesting because our audience is 70% women.
Uh-huh.
But they were very into social change and sustainability and taking care of each other and also of the earth. So they were really, really early adapters.
Mm-hmm.
But they thought, okay, sustainability, it's difficult and people think it's complicated. We're going to start this blog. And,
Mm-hmm.
2005, it was also the time that blogs really, came into the world, social
Yeah.
media started. So,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them worked at Microsoft. So he was completely into all the new developments.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how they started, and we took over in 2018 and
Yeah.
completely redesigned and repositioned ourselves. But there
Mm-hmm.
was a basis, which was awesome to take over, of course.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but we switched from two men to women.
Yeah.
With a women demographic, most of the, like Asceline said.
Yeah.
So we especially redesigned the way it was looking, and with success, because we were voted best website of the year for 3 years in a row. We got two book deals, so we just published our second book. We
Yeah.
started organizing months around one theme, cooperating with different brands. We started a research agency to research and test products. So we've done a lot since we took over.
Yeah. And it's also it's not just a website where you can find tips about sustainable living, but it's like there's also a lot of research on there. I saw indeed. Yeah.
Yes. So we have a panel of 5,000 people that gave us permission to ask them different questions. So it's or they give their opinion on a certain topic,
Hmm.
or we can ask them to test products for sustainable brands.
Ah. Okay.
So
So
that's yeah.
so
So that
sustainable brands can also come to you and then have their product tested properly.
yes. And especially for the startups, it's a really nice way to see if what they're making. Our audience is are the front runners.
Yeah.
So on different levels, of course. But a big group is very sustainable and really trying to make the best out of it.
Hmm.
So what we see, we do the research on the opinions and the trends, so we can say, okay, now this is what the early adapters um, are focused on. So we can say it's on food or alternative travel, or they want to live in different ways.
Hmm.
And what we see is when we do the research, 2 3 years later, we see these trends becoming more mainstream. So it's a
Yeah.
really nice way to get some insight of where we might go. And for the sustainable brands, it's a really nice way to have this very critical, conscious consumers, but positive ones.
Yeah.
So they're not there to say, okay, your product sucks, but they're really helping and trying to get these products really, um, yeah, the best that the brand can give. Yeah.
Yeah. Really help improve. They're not the cancel crew.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
No,
they're not.
not at all.
It helps us to stay positive ourselves as well, because we've
Hmm.
been doing this research for years, and then we see what was maybe not very common yet 3 years ago is now becoming common. So we actually see the change, and we can measure that change and think, when people are saying to us,
Uh-huh.
I'm just one person, I cannot change the world, we're not there yet. No, we're not there yet, but a lot has changed. If you look back 4 or 5 years, the world
Yeah.
was really a different place.
I want to switch gears a bit to sustainable living. Wieke, can you tell me what it means to you as a person?
As a person, well, personally, I've been a vegetarian since I was 18, and I started to become a vegan when I was, well, 6 years ago or something like that.
Mm,
I don't have a car, so I do car sharing, which I realized is a prerogative because I live in Amsterdam. So I have a lot of sharing cars in the neighborhood that I can instantly, even if I need one now, in the worst
mhm.
case scenario, I need to walk 10 minutes to get to a car that I can use.
Yeah,
So I'm aware of the fact that this is not everywhere the case, but for me that's the case. So that's really nice. I use public transport as much as possible because
yeah,
that is in fact the most sustainable way to travel. I cut down severely on flying, but that is still a little bit of an issue because I have family in the States. So it's if I want to see them, it's I can't go on a sailing boat for 3 months. It's just not. It's gonna
no,
be.
okay. There's Greta Thunberg, and there's a practical
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, exactly. And also, last but not least, I try to severely consume less. So, where I used to be a mindless consumer, like most of us were at one point, or maybe still are, like, oh, I have the money, I like it, I buy it because products have become so cheap. Now I'm like, do I really want to spend my money, first of all, on cheap products that are not sustainable and that aren't made fair?
Yeah,
So that's the first question, and most of the time I answer no. And then the second question if it's sustainable, do I want to spend my money on it? Do I need it? Do I really need it? Because a lot of new products that you buy make you happy for a
hmm,
while, but mostly within a week, sometimes within a month, you forgot that you had it and you need a new craving and you need to start buying new stuff. So I focused more on, instead of spending my money on things, on experiences, because that's so
yeah,
much more valuable and nice, spending time with friends and family and doing stuff, learning
yeah.
stuff.
Okay, Asceline, how about you?
Well, I try. I try to do as much as possible, but when you work in sustainability and like us run a platform and you see all
Mm,
these people have this minimalistic lifestyle, I sometimes think, oh, is it enough what I'm doing? So you can be very strict on yourself and have this critical voice in my head, like, okay, why did you buy this? But what Vika says, I think that also counts for me. I'm really, really reducing on everything I buy. So I borrow, I swap, I buy a lot secondhand, which is like
mhm.
my new normal. um and but I experience it as a struggle still because I'm kind of, I don't know, sensitive for marketing. I think I like it when
Yeah,
things look nice and bright and colorful, and it's in discount, and it's so
yeah. Those
and
triggers are hard to weed out, right?
really, really.
Everybody's
Yeah,
sensitive for that. That's why the
yeah,
marketing guys are so good. They use all
yeah,
these psychological research to get into your brain, and they know your brain works differently than my brain and all that. So
Yeah.
I just
yeah.
try to avoid those triggers.
Oh, I was about to ask, do you
Yeah.
use them also for the platform?
Yes and no. It would be a great experiment. So I would love to once have this campaign, really, really big campaign that we try to convince people to buy nothing.
Hmm.
Um, that would be awesome because, of course, you can use the same tactics as the marketing does to buy more, to buy less, because it's as Vika said, it's like a psychological way to really attach to people.
Hmm.
But we're very critical on our platform, who we work with, and that also makes our platform difficult in these economic times where everything is about growth.
Yeah.
So what we do, we get emails every single day from companies that say, oh, can you promote this, or can we have this, or um, can we put a banner on your website? And for us it's really
Hmm.
like, okay, what kind of brand is it? Is it really sustainable in the core of the business? um, and are the products do we actually need them? Because yes, we work with sustainable brands that um, change the way we consume. Like for example, jeans that you can lease and send back and get mended, and but yeah, if we just keep on pushing people to buy more but sustainable, it's better than the non-sustainable products. But still, it's the overconsumption that's really killing us on this planet, I think.
Yeah, especially also with clothing.
Especially with clothing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And but this is like this is an issue that is still in the front runners group, furniture,
Yeah.
because furniture is actually a bigger issue right now than clothing. We buy a lot of fast furniture at like the big giants that we all know, and it's
yeah.
cheap and it's not
Uh,
good, and we put it to the side of the curb to be, for the garbage man to pick up when we're tired of it, because it didn't cost us that much. Apart from all the materials that are used that aren't quite sustainable. So that is the thing to watch. That's going to grow bigger, that consciousness, the coming
Yeah.
years.
okay, so do I hear a trend coming that there will come a time for vintage for furniture
There, there,
rentals or
there
furniture?
already is. Yeah,
Oh,
there is a curated platform for vintage and second-hand furniture, and it's doing really well. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh, that,
yes, for sure, but curated, because what you see at Vinted, for example, um, is not really an answer on fast fashion, a sustainable answer to fast fashion. Of course, it's really good that we sell our clothes we're not wearing to other people, but it's also an excuse for people to keep on buying products and then say, okay, I'm going to wear it twice and then I will sell it on Vinted and somebody else will be happy with it. But it's not the solution to the very polluting fashion industry.
no.
So
It's more like something that makes it, how do you say, defensible for ourselves, that we can use. Oh, I put it on Vinted, so then I'm
yeah,
sustainable.
yeah, it's a bit of an excuse, but not only it really has good. It also have a very positive effect
Mm-hmm.
to make secondhand um, more
Yeah,
mainstream. So there are still a lot of people who think, okay, secondhand, maybe it's dirty, or it's still people think that. But this is really changing it, because you can buy so many beautiful items on Vinted.
yeah,
Um, and of course, people might buy less, but still, it's also a bit of an excuse. But we are in this transition, so we need to embrace like every change possible,
yeah,
and really cheer to everybody's using it to say, okay, we're taking the next step, but we have to stay critical as well.
And
yeah.
the thing is with the fashion as well as the furniture, by the way, but if you buy clothing from like a fast fashion or an ultra fast fashion brand,
Mm,
you can wear it for maybe 2 times, 3 times, and then you wash it and it will start to lose shape and it will start to fade in color. So
yeah,
if you are going to sell those things on a platform like Vinted, it's not going to give you as much money,
no,
because the next person is not going to spend as much money on it. So some people are seeing buying luxury brand clothing also as an investment, because if you don't wear it yourself anymore, you can sell it for a lot of money if it's still in good shape, if it is a good brand. And the
yeah,
same is for vintage furniture. You invest in a piece of furniture if you keep it nice, which of course is more likely to happen when you buy a quality, sustainable furniture. Then you can sell it for a good amount of money instead of just €3 here and €5 there.
yeah. And this is where the curation comes in,
Yeah, and
to
that's
Yes.
where
make
the
sure it's
curation.
really, really high quality stuff that is sold online.
Exactly.
Not
Yes, and
okay.
unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, when we were talking about marketing, money is still a very good incentive to either buy something or not buy something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
No,
why with clothing, they sometimes cut it down to cost per wear. So if you buy something at fast fashion, you wear it twice, it's actually quite expensive per time that you wear it. If
Yeah.
you buy something expensive and you wear it a lot of the times, it becomes cheaper because by
Yeah.
the times you wear it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
have some clothing items that are like 3, 4 years old and that have been totally worn out, but I really enjoy wearing them still. So
Yeah.
I take them to the dry cleaners and then
yeah.
maybe not really sustainable, but it does a bit
Yeah,
better
actually
than.
washing them yourselves is probably better for the fabric, but that's a whole different story.
Okay, okay. Let's not go there right
Yeah,
now.
no.
So I was wondering, you have a platform about sustainability. How do you measure your own impact?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, first of all, like Asceline said, we have that very active group of 5,000 people that we do research with. So we can
mm,
measure those results. We measure what they think about certain things. We measure what their opinion is on certain products.
mm,
But secondly, outside that group, we have quite a lot of active readers who send us emails or respond on social media. So in that sense, we sort of know. We sometimes also forget, and then we are somewhere, and you say that you're from hetkanwel.nl, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm such a fan of that platform because thanks to you, I changed the way I buy clothes, or I
mm,
look at my furniture in an entire different way, or I started eating vegan once a week, or whatever it is that they did."
mm.
So that's very rewarding in itself.
And of course, um, we measure the people visiting our platform. We see how many people follow us on social media, what they like, what they don't like. It's really immediately you can see what's working and not.
Yeah. Are you also able to measure behavioral change?
Well, a little bit, and we're going to improve that because we do research on alternative travel and alternative living like every year at the same time, so we
Mm,
can see trends.
yeah.
And yes, so that's working. Um, of course, what would be perfect, and we're working on that at the moment, is that we have like a group of people who fill in like a survey and do some interviews
Uh-huh.
every single 6 months, for example, and you can see, how they are changing their behavior.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not because of us. We nudge and we inspire and we give information, but it's
Mm,
society as a whole. That yeah, sustainability is a topic that's involving everyone.
yeah. Do you also see, because you've been working in this field for quite a while, do you also see the society become more sustainably minded, so to say? Asleen?
Yes, yes, and no.
Oh.
Yeah, so I see a growing group being really, really worried,
Mm-hmm.
and taking action and changing their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a large group who thinks it's, yeah, not up to them. They
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, as long as China is there or the US, we still hear this, these excuses for people not to um yeah, try to do the best they can to make their life a little more sustainable. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are also a lot of people who have other things on their mind.
Yeah.
um Sustainability, as we say, okay, we have to consume less, and um, it's from a point of view that you actually have the ability to buy stuff, and you
Yeah.
have the money to travel by plane, but you're going by train. It's a luxury. And of
Yeah.
course, sustainability shouldn't be a luxury. But yeah, what we see now is that also, for example, with solar panels or electrical cars, it's still for the happy few.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the people who really need to take responsibility,
Yeah.
because they have the ability to change. And so, yeah, we see a lot of change, but most of the time, I'm very positive on, what's changing and what we said before. especially when you look back, you can see, okay, sometimes we think it's going so slow. Um, but if you walked in the supermarket 5 years ago, and you were looking for like plant-based milk, you had one option, and now you
maybe.
have to, maybe, exactly, and now
And
you
and
have,
not in not outside Amsterdam, by the way.
yeah, maybe.
Still on some places not outside Amsterdam, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It has changed. It has definitely changed, and we see now, for example, the interest in traveling by train is also increasing very rapidly,
Yeah.
and we see that also in more and more companies coming up in Europe to connect the different countries. Because I remember, like 20 years ago, I my car broke down. I had to take the train back from Spain to Amsterdam. You had to wait at the border because they had to change trains, different tracks, and all that. Now
Yeah.
there's a direct train going from Paris to Barcelona that takes, I think, 7 hours, 6 7 hours.
Hmm.
So these things are changing, but it's still what Asceline says. It's the happy few. It's the front runners, and it's the people who have the money and the time to
Yeah.
be able to do it.
But isn't that part of societal change always? That there's front runners, and those are usually the people who have a bit more money to spend and
No,
therefore
no,
can take a bit more of risk, quote unquote.
definitely, definitely, because when you have more people drinking plant-based milk, to get back to that example that
Mm.
Asline was giving, you also there was one point where you had to pay 50 cents extra when you were in a cafe if you
Yeah.
wanted plant-based milk instead of cow milk. And
Yeah.
then there were so many people drinking it, maybe only in Amsterdam for starters, and not so much, or in the big cities for starters in the Netherlands. But then people started to become annoyed by the fact that they had to pay 50 cents more, and the campaign started. And now a lot of cafes are front running, saying, okay, for us, you pay 50 cents more if you want cow milk instead of plant based milk. And so things are changing. You can go in a supermarket and buy a plant based burger that is just as cheap, or maybe even cheaper than
Yeah.
a burger from, actual meat. So, in that sense, it becomes more available thanks to the front runners to
Yeah.
people who have less money or time.
Yeah.
But we do
Uh,
need that change, actually. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's part of the change that now needs to come, that we actually make it accessible to, uh, yeah, for lack of a better word, ordinary people. What I on the burgers, by the way, there's still this. I think an experiment at, I forget if it's Burger King or McDonald's, where they swap plant-based burgers with regular burgers. The people making the burgers don't know. The people selling the burgers don't know. The customer doesn't know. And what they find is that they made it so good, the texture of the meat, that people
Yeah. I
hardly.
mean, but it's often an idea. And when how some people have that idea in their mind and say, oh, you're vegan, so you're eating like a rabbit all day, just lettuce and carrots. There's more food than lettuce and carrots, and there's
Yeah.
actually good food. So if people come for dinner at my place, of course they know I am vegan, so I will make a vegan meal. But
Mhm.
oftentimes when people don't know, I just make a meal. If you don't say it's vegan, they like it or they don't, but not because of the vegan label on it.
No.
So it has a lot to do with your preconception of what something is.
Yeah, true.
And
Uh,
marketing has a big say in that as well, because there is a lot of marketing that says you are only a man if you eat like a lot of meat. So that is an idea that has set that is based in the mind, but it was thought up by marketing guys
yeah.
to promote meat. So
Yeah, but the whole farmers movement is also now run by marketing guys.
it is,
Yeah.
yes,
So
and paid for by the marketing industry that
yeah,
earns a lot of money. And that is actually exploiting to some level the farmers themselves. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But that's usually the case if you're
yeah,
either you're the product or you're the consumer, and in this case, they're both.
yeah.
Um, I was wondering, because your work is the work for hetkanwel is organized through a foundation. How do you get funded? And the reason I ask is that for many women, especially female entrepreneurs, it's really difficult to get good funding.
Shall I start, Vic?
Yeah.
Yes.
um, well, um, we don't really get funded. So we have some ways to earn money, but
Mm-hmm.
we're mainly a mission-driven platform, and we want to show people that living a more sustainable life is really fulfilling and
Mm-hmm.
fun. So we work with freelancers who really embrace our mission, and everybody puts a lot of energy in it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've reached so far, we're really proud of. But to be more financial sustainable in the future,
Mm-hmm.
we're working on well, a content and research agency for
Mm-hmm.
social change. So this agency will help sustainable brands with content and research.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we can ask our community to help these brands, and then because of um, the money we make, we can reinvest in the foundation, and
Mm-hmm.
in this way be financially sustainable.
Okay.
um, yeah. So, but for now, we work with we work with really interesting brands, but it's always on something specific, like a month or a
Yeah.
campaign, or, and we're really critical, and we don't want to pollute our platform, for example, with a lot of banners and buy more and buy this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
So
that's
it's
why we decided to start the agency, because we it's really valuable what we have to offer, and especially all the knowledge we have on the different topics, but also
yeah, but
um,
also the testing platform that you have, I
yeah,
assume that should be valuable to brands.
exactly, yeah. But we want to do it in a really, really transparent way as well,
Mm-hmm.
because we have the group of people, and by helping and supporting the brands, they make sure that the platform and all the content we have to offer is available for everyone. So not only for the people who can pay, because that was what you're seeing in a lot of platforms, that there is a paywall, for example, or
Yeah.
people need a subscription to read everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we don't want, because we want to inspire as much as people as possible,
Mm-hmm.
to really see the benefits of living a more sustainable life.
Yeah. Pika?
And also, we don't want to be, because one way that a lot of platforms on sustainability do the paywall, or other platforms actually, because a lot of journalistic platforms online, whether it is online or print, are suffering right now because
Yeah.
people are so used to free content, they don't want to pay for it anymore, even if they have the money.
Mm-hmm.
A different way is what we see on social media, is that people are earning fundings by being like a live advertorial, so to say.
Yeah,
So that we were
influencers.
just talking about this. Every day they post things like, buy this sunscreen, and next week it's a different sunscreen, and
Mm-hmm.
buy this notebook, and next week it's a different notebook. And we are trying to get people to become more conscious consumers and to consume less. And then it's really weird if you have that mission on one side, and then on the other side you're telling people to buy more, even if the brands are sustainable.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to say is, if you need, suntan lotion,
Mm-hmm.
but these are sustainable brands, or if you need new jeans, try to buy sustainable brands. These are the ones that exist.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little bit more difficult, because a lot of brands are still quite traditional, in the sense that they want results. So
Yeah.
if they work with us and they pay us for something, they want to see how many extra items they sold, and that is usually not the way we go into it, because
Yeah,
we're
that's
just
but
about branding.
it's also not the value that is your strong point. Your strong point, as I hear it, is more in terms of the research and the community that
Yeah.
they can use to test drive their products really early on and see what adoption is like.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's sometimes a bit complicating to do it this way. But for us, it's the only way to do it, because otherwise, it doesn't feel good, and we're not doing what we think we need to do to make these old people more sustainable.
Yeah.
And
Do you
also, I
see?
think if you do it the way that is not, this sounds maybe a little vague, but close to your heart, if it goes against your heart, it's going to be not sustainable for you as a person. It's going to, Asceline and me are going to be burned out within no time if
Yeah.
we try to set all our principles aboard and do it anyway because we need money. Then we're going to talk to us within a year, and we're probably at the point of quitting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also sort of fuel, but
Yeah,
it's also, it can also be polluting the other way, because if you don't have the resources to keep the or to scale up, it can be
mm,
frustrating because you know there's an opportunity, but you
Yes.
can't, yeah, for lack of a better word, monetize it because you don't have the assets to, or the money to invest in it.
true. But I think that's a problem of our economic system, that it's really difficult to make a living out of consuming less,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because our economic system is based on growth.
Yeah.
And of course, we see the trends for degrowth, and we see circular economy initiatives, but still, they're all struggling. Because the traditional way to invest, and then you have an exit and you grow, you need to grow, then you have an exit. It's
Mm.
not something we can monetize, never. But
Do
we
you see
can.
that change coming, by the way?
Uh,
And when?
well, yes. Well, what we see is that we are all searching for ways to finance this more sustainable, less consuming society.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, and, but I think we need some time to really transition into the society. But there is a lot going on, and there are a lot of people thinking about it, and also with new rules to really show the impact you make. There will be change,
Yeah,
but I
because
think it will.
there are European rules coming, I think, on
Yeah,
this.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
constantly. Yeah.
but also with like the CSRD or the things like that, um they are affecting all companies, also the smaller ones already.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think um it will definitely change, but it's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, you have those companies, also sustainable companies, that do things that are so front runner that the market itself isn't fully ready for it yet.
Yeah.
So they can't make it financially sustainable, and they go bankrupt or they quit before they go bankrupt. And then you see a couple of years later, and sometimes that's 5 years, sometimes it's 25 years,
Mm.
then it will become mainstream. But I mean, we do need all those companies to lead us the way, and we
Yeah, to
hope to
try.
be one of those companies leading
Yeah.
the way. Only we hope to not go bankrupt or
Yeah.
quit, or
Yeah.
so that's why we are starting that agency that
Yeah.
Asceline is talking about, because trying to monetize the value that we have is that community, and is that vision of trends happening, and the testing of products, to doing the research and all that.
Any other projects or initiatives that you're enthusiastic about?
Oh yes, a lot.
Well.
Also, we're starting in October another alternative living month. We
Mhm.
published a book in May on alternative living, and it's really inspiring a lot of people, because it's about all the possibilities that are there within all the problems we face um, in the way we want to live, and actually the houses that are built or not even built. So we have a huge housing problem, of course, in the Netherlands, but we see so many people working throughout the whole of the Netherlands on different projects for, from eco communities till people are going to live on a boat or build a whole village or
Mm,
build their own houses. It's amazing. So and in October we're again doing a full month of these kind of initiatives. We interview a lot of people who are working on them. We show the trends. We do a really big research every year also
mm.
on alternative living wishes from people. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wieke, any?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be exciting. We're going to do also small events. That is a new thing for us. We started with the launch of our book in May. We decided to not have a book launch party like the traditional one with champagne and cake and all that,
Mm,
which we like, by the way. So it's not it's not that we reject that, but we were thinking, let's take this launch of this book as an opportunity to host a small event in one of the initiatives that we portrayed in our book in Amsterdam.
mm.
Luckily, they were on board. So we invited 3 speakers to talk about their project that were all in the book. So that is nice. And we invited like readers, but also the people who were in the book. And funnily enough, the people who are pioneers, who are front runners that were portrayed in the book, also find it very inspiring to hear other frontrunners talk
Yeah,
about different ways of living and how they financed it and how they went about it. So now for this upcoming month in October, we're trying to get a bigger event together with different speakers to inspire even more people to spread the word, basically, because I think
yeah.
people are ready. They want to, especially in this market that is totally in lockdown, more or less, the housing market in Holland,
Mm,
who are willing, who want to live differently, but they don't know how to start. So we're
yeah,
trying to give them the tools. Like, this is what you need to pay attention to. These are the steps that you need to be taking, etc. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to.
yeah. I can imagine. It's also really on point in terms of timing. I would say because
Yes.
indeed we have a huge issue in the housing market, and there are people who want to live differently, even if it's like tiny houses, etc. But just don't know where
Yeah.
to get started. And I think, yeah, for sure, if you can inspire those people with actual knowledge and stories, hey, here's how you can do that.
Yeah, because yeah, you need to break free from the traditional way. You see, I mean, apart from the fact that there are not enough houses in the Netherlands, we only have apartments or houses.
Huh?
We only have rent or buy.
Yeah,
We only have expensive or cheap. So if
yeah,
you feel like I want to live in a tiny house, I don't need a big house. I don't have a lot of stuff, but I want a large garden, like a lot of greens where I can have maybe my own vegetable garden. It's impossible. It's not there.
yeah,
So if it's not there, you need to create it yourself. And how do you go about that process? Because, you have the government who's saying, create it yourself. Are you crazy? We have a whole system here in place. So no, we're not going to do that. Or
mm,
the bank who's saying, how are you going to finance it? Because we're not, etc. So we
uh,
have all sorts of tips and tricks of people who actually did it before, and it's becoming easier and easier. And we see that the government, city governments, and banks are getting more open to this possibility. So it's becoming easier again.
yeah, because it's more becoming more common.
Yes,
It's
and the front runners have shown us that they're not a bunch of crazy people who are
yeah.
who are disrupting this, who are disrupting society, because that is often what people are afraid of.
Yeah, but then disrupting in the bad sense of the word, not in
Disrupting in the bad sense, like they're not going to pay back the loan,
no.
or they're
Yeah,
going to, steal, or they're going to live like I don't know, like crazy people having a bonfire and crazy music dance. I don't know what the ideas are, but they're afraid of
mm,
it.
yeah,
They're Because they don't know it. So a lot of cities are like, I don't know
yeah,
if we want to do that.
yeah.
And this we see changing right now. So
Ah, oh, that's good. That's cool to hear.
yeah.
Um, Asceline, I want to switch gears a bit because you've done research on how social enterprises develop their ideas. How did you use that? How do you use it in hetkanwel?
Yeah, that's such a nice question. Um, when I was doing the PhD, I was also supporting from a communication perspective a lot of social enterprises. And somebody once told me, If you want to learn about entrepreneurship, become an entrepreneur. So yeah, with Vika, we took that step, and I think it's the best and the worst advice I ever got, because being an entrepreneur is like being in a roller coaster, I think, so you're going all the way up and you feel like, okay, now we've got it, we're there, and you can see the horizon and know where you're going. And then all of a sudden, you just drop down and
Yeah.
everything changes again. And, but I'm really enjoying the journey. But, you know, researching and studying enterprises, social enterprises, it's completely different than being an entrepreneur yourself. And also, if I would give myself advice, I would exactly know what to say. Focus
Mm.
and make sure you have a good planning, know where you're going, have a goal. All these things I really know what to say to myself as a coach or a business coach or whatever. But,
Uh,
reality takes over all the time.
yeah, it's
So
like what Mike Tyson really aptly said. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
exactly.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
so, so I just embrace the chaos and the fun and the energy I'm getting out of it. And, I definitely try to sometimes take a step back and say, okay, and especially Week and I, we do that a lot together, which is so nice of running this running hetkanwel with the two of us, and also with Charlotte, who's doing our social media. Um, because you need to take the step back and say, okay, wait, where are we going, what are we doing? But it's a constant process, and we're also asking people for advice. And I think the best thing I learned from the whole PhD, next to knowing a lot of people, and it's really interesting to do,
mm,
is I read this article that says, the title was, "It takes a village to raise an entrepreneur."
mhm.
And I think that's true. You can't run a business by yourself. You need an ecosystem. You need a support system. You need people you trust, people that can advise you. And then, but you have to do it yourself or yourselves, like we do. And you learn along the way. Yeah.
Wieke,
Yes.
I read on the website that you are trying to ban plastic out of your life. How do you manage to do that? Because I'm trying to do that, but I'm having a really hard time doing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting how that one always comes back to me. So it's apparently it's one of the things that people find very complicated and very intriguing at the same time.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, we were talking about front runners and how things are becoming mainstream and are changing.
Hmm.
And before, and I started this in, I think it was 2017 or maybe 2018, when I started to see what is possible to ban plastic out of my life. And that was an entirely different society than it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, the regulations were different back then. We've now have statiegeld, so deposit money on small plastic bottles, on
Yeah.
cans that are lined with plastic. We don't have plastic bags anymore with every purchase that you do in a store. We used to have that. So and we have more and more those filling stations. Even regular supermarkets are now experimenting with that, where you can bring your own jar and fill it up with whatever it is, pasta, rice, nuts, or things like that. There's companies who are experimenting, refilling, for example, your cleaning products with just a tablet and then add your own water, which basically means that you have one bottle that you refill all the time. So
Hmm.
you're reusing it. That can be a glass bottle, it can be a plastic bottle, but the fact is that you're not buying new and new.
Yeah.
Soap bars have become more regular. Plastic or paper cups with the plastic lining are now not common anymore because they're, well, forbidden is a strong word, but they're actually forbidden, but some companies still have them. But I mean, so people go to work now with their own coffee cup their own water bottle, their own
Yeah.
lunchbox is more common, to have your whatever it is that you
A-
bring for lunch. So
Actually, it's a bit going back to the future in that sense, especially with the
yeah,
lunchbox and taking your own
yeah,
cup
but
with you.
yeah, we saw it because when I was a kid, I used to go to school with those things, and then
Uh-huh.
when I became a teenager, I thought it as a luxury to not have to bring those things anymore because I thought they were stupid and backwards and stuff. And so there was a time where we saw it as a luxury to be able to just walk past a coffee shop and buy a coffee and get a cup, and or buy a meal and get a plastic container
Yeah.
where it was in, and toss everything out. And we didn't think about the huge amount of garbage that it produced, let alone that we thought about all the plastic that was in it and that might cause a problem. So that is the thing. And even the consciousness about microplastics in products or in clothing
Hmm.
is growing. It's still quite minimal. I think a lot of people are still not thinking about that, but I see it growing. So there is my niece was staring in the water the other day. She's just turned 9, and she just shouted out at one point, "I hate plastics!" And I was like, "Oh my God, what happened here?"
Yeah.
So that is just to show that there is a change. And I was asking her, like, why do you hate it? Have you learned this at school, or you? No, she learned it from YouTube. So
No.
there's a whole different generation growing up here
Yeah.
who hate plastic. And then, of course, she added something like, but not plastic cups, because I like to make things out of those. So she's still 9. So, but I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. For sure. Something you wanted to add?
Well, I wanted to add, like, we cannot completely ban plastic. Plastic is also good in a lot of ways, of course. I mean, there's plastic in your laundry machine. There's plastic in a lot of appliances that we use in the kitchen. There's plastic in a lot of medical gear that they use in the hospital. So it's not only bad, is what I'm saying. So to
Yeah.
say, I had plastic is going a little bit far, but the consciousness is growing, and a lot of the single-use plastics, as we call them, are
Mm.
are sort of getting banned. I think there will be a time where we're not using the single-use plastics anymore.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I think for sure the whole coffee to go concept will change at
it
some
will
point, because actually it's maybe a fun story to from my own side. During the pandemic, when they reopened up, I actually bought one of these small. I'm
to
showing
go cups. Yeah,
a refillable cup. I still have it, by the way. And yes, it's plastic, but I've had it for now 4 years now. It still works, and I still get even though it's small, a small discount on my coffee for it. That I've
yeah. But
been.
isn't that funny how that changes though? Because before the pandemic, it was very awkward if you were in a coffee shop and you handed over your own cup and say, "Can I have my coffee in this cup?"
Yeah,
Everybody you would feel like, "Oh, everybody's looking at me like I'm a
yeah.
crazy person
Oh,
here."
yeah, for sure.
And now it's very normal, and you even get a discount if you bring your own cup. So that's how things are
Even
actually changing.
it's even better that in the coffee shops where I get the my coffee, they ask, "Don't you have your cup with you?"
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Yeah.
Which happen
And then you have to
sometimes. I
apologize.
just I do forget these things, or I'm just on the go and I didn't plan to get coffee, and then I see a coffee
But
shop.
of course, but that's okay. We all
Yeah,
forget those things. Asceline and me all the time.
yeah. So
So, it makes us human.
yeah, so yeah, true, true. I want to go back to circle back to a theme about sustainable living, because you also wrote a book about that. It's called Anders Wonen. It's a book about yeah, how do I call this? Living pioneers. So really the front runners in how to live sustainable. Uh, can you mention some of the interesting stories from the book? They're
Yeah, there's
pointing at
one.
each other
Yeah,
now.
we're turning at each other now. It's like, who is going to go first? Yeah, it literally means living differently.
Yeah.
So, that's what the title means in Dutch. We have about 15, 16 pioneers in there who live differently from living in a yurt with their family, like one of those round tents,
Mm-hmm.
to building your own eco community. On that, all the examples that Asceline mentioned before. For me personally, I mean, we went to different people and interviewed them separately from
Mm-hmm.
each other. And I went to Nijmegen, where there are what we call the stadsnomaden, or they call themselves the stadsnomaden,
Yeah.
which is like the city nomads.
Yeah.
And this is a group of people. They started out with 5 friends, but now I think out of my head, that there's about 20 or 30 people living there. And
Mm-hmm.
they started out like there's these little pockets of grounds in the city, in every city, that are not used for whatever reason, because
Mm-hmm.
they're waiting for some project manager
Yeah.
to start building and all that. Sometimes it lasts a couple of months, sometimes a year, sometimes a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so they said we can live on those grounds and start to make it more beautiful, start to plant trees, improve the soil, add greenery, and also be, adding something for the neighborhood by starting like a tea cafe, or organizing concerts, or organizing any sorts of things. So this, to me, before I went there, it sounded like, I don't know, this is like way alternative on that whole scale of from alternative to ordinary is
Yeah.
very alternative, and it looks alternative and chaotic. But these people were so well spoken, and their vision was so clear, and I was so in awe of what they were doing. It was dumbstruck by it. It was a beautiful initiative, and beforehand I was a little critical, maybe even, or not
Yeah.
critical, but I was like, I don't know about this, but it sounds fun, and it was so beautiful that this is the project that that has impressed me the much, that I visited,
Yeah.
because there are stories so clear, and they're working together with the city. So they pay the city a little bit of rent for the grounds that they're
Uh-huh.
on, and they all have houses, like small trailers or yurts or things that they can pack up and disassemble within a period of 1 or 2 weeks, leave and set up again on a different grounds in the same city, but maybe on the other side of the city. And then they start anew. And so
Yeah.
I said to them, does that make you anxious that everything is temporary and you don't know when you have to pack up your stuff and go? I
Mm.
mean, and they
Yeah.
said, well, yeah, but we have that wrong notion about temporary, because a lot of people who think they live somewhere permanently
Yeah.
also move every 5 to 7 years to a different
Yeah.
home.
True.
So what is temporary?
What is permanent? What is,
Permanent?
yeah.
So
And
that
also, but
opened my view a lot, this
yeah,
project.
I can imagine also that they're willing to invest in the soil, even though they're going to be there for a relatively short period of time. That is really
Yeah,
striking.
and this is what we mean with, we are stuck in a traditional system of like growth, and we only invest in things that we get something out of ourselves
Yeah.
usually. And this is so outside that box that it baffled me. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is inspiring. We should all be more like this. Yeah, they say it's not maybe our soil. We're not going to live there for very long, but it's our earth. And I've heard people say that also when they clean out the streets. It's not my garbage that I threw here on the streets, but it's my street, it's my earth, so I'm
Yeah.
cleaning it up.
Beautiful. Asceline, what
Yeah.
struck you? What story struck you the most?
Well, I went to the east of Groningen.
Mm.
There is an eco village.
Mm.
They're building it at the moment. It's called Land van Eine.
Mm.
Um, and it's a really close community of people. So they started with a group of 50.
Mhm.
And all the people are building their own houses, but it's an old factory grounds, and they could buy it from the province and the municipality, and they got the opportunity to build there. And it's a really beautiful surrounding because it's very green, and there's a pond you can swim in, and there's a little forest. Um, and what struck me most is that there were people living there already for years, like in a tent with their family or also in a trailer, and
Mhm.
really building their own house with their own hands, and all with like bio based materials. And they go to places where buildings are torn down, and then they see, oh, I can use these windows or I can use this serre, and they're building their house with all these secondhand materials and also the bio-based materials as
Mm.
a community. Um, and then next to that, sometimes they work for a while because they need some extra money, and then they go back. So they have this really interesting lifestyle. And when I was walking there, it's very well organized. They have a living room. They can eat and cook together.
Huh?
Children get class on the premises. They have a huge vegetable garden, so they're almost eating only what they grow themselves.
Mm.
Um, but they have dirt roads, and they have been living in these tents for quite some time. And I was thinking, there was this older man, and I think he was even in his 80s. um and I thought, okay, maybe it will take time, and before the whole idea what they want, because is ready, um he will never live to see it finished. So we discussed it, and for them it's not about the community or the village being finished. It's
Mm.
also very much about the process, and
Yeah.
that made me think, we want everything, also in the Netherlands, we want everything to look nice and tidy and perfect.
Yeah.
And when there's a hole in the road, we immediately fix it. And we're spending so much time on getting everything perfect instead of enjoying life. And they really enjoyed building this community together. So I don't know, I was really really inspired to say, okay, we, of course, it's about the process in life and taking every step and enjoying every moment. um but they did, and they have this freedom in their minds to yeah, step out of the rat race, step out of the urge to have everything perfect, and they just live their life and make it as nice as they can, as fast as it goes, and they
Yeah.
just take it like that. And I thought, okay, this is a way of living we can all embrace a bit
Yeah,
Yeah.
more.
we're so attached to the end result that
Exactly.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
forget what we see or do or experience on the way. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
heard that with more pioneers or front runners who are saying it's about the process, not about the end result, which makes sense, but it's hard. It's hard for me anyway to be like
Yeah,
that.
because there's no end to it, because
Yeah,
everyone has been sort of taught, and that's also I guess traditional storytelling, that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and everyone knows if they're sort of in the process and they're working towards something, as if they get it, that middle part is worth it, even though yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
it might actually suck, but
You need your happy ending.
yeah, but you need indeed you need the happy ending. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
where I've, but that's my personal opinion. We need to get off that that need to
Yeah.
always have that end.
yeah,
There's always an end to it, but you may not live to see it, or
Exactly.
it may not materialize in the way that you thought it would be.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
True.
okay. I want to move to a bit towards the end of the conversation. I've two questions left. One is we've been talking about sustainable living. You have really a lot of knowledge and experience in that area. Uh, what would be your top three advices to people who still need to get started with their sustainable living journey, Asceline?
Yes. The first advice is to just start. Take the first step.
Mhm.
Um, People think, oh, the problems we face are enormous. What can I do? Well, you can do a lot. Just take the first step. Start with something that's really close to your heart. So if you're an animal lover, start with a more plant-based diet. If you like fashion, swap with your friends. If you love to travel, see how you can travel in a more sustainable ways. But just do something, because what we experience is that um, when you're busy trying to change your behavior, it takes time.
Hmm.
But you're also much more aware of other things. So like a it's like a wheel, once
Yeah,
it starts turning and you're creating this awareness, you will see other things and think, okay, I can make a change here as well. And then it's also, don't be too strict on yourself, because when you have this idea of, okay, I'm going to um, bike every day to my office, and instead of using the car, for example.
hmm,
And then one week you're so fed up and tired and you're just going by car. A lot of people think, okay, now, I wanted to do it for a month, and now after 3 weeks, I didn't do it. And then they stop
yeah,
and they think, okay, um, don't do, be too strict, start over. But try to keep up, and try to do it for at least, I think, 30 days, and then something in your brain is changing. But if you don't do it right, start over and don't be too strict. Yeah,
yeah.
and enjoy life, as we just talked about the process.
Hmm.
um you can be very uh, we can all be very depressed, but we need to enjoy the ride and enjoy life and just be nice to everyone. That's also something I would like to ask people, because I think a lot of people forget to be nice to other people, to nature, to animals, and
And to themselves.
and to them.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, very important indeed. Yeah. And
We,
also see the joy in it. See the joy in it, because we were talking about Back to the Future before, when
mm,
we where we are now taking our lunch boxes again and our drinking cups, etc. A lot of people look at sustainable lifestyle as a step back, as they have to give up on luxury or comfort. Um, but it's, if you don't look at it that way, or you have to give up on meat or clothes or whatever it is that you're giving up on, if you look at it in a different way, there is a lot of joy in there as well. You can enjoy the clothes that you've been wearing for so long, because they are actually your favorite, and you thought about purchasing them for a long time before you purchased them, etc.
yeah,
And usually, when you shop less and consume less, you have more time. So you can, for instance, go and take a hike in nature, or go on a small trip, or have a vegetable garden and learn about these things. So it also
mm,
brings a whole, it opens up a whole new world for you, with possibilities and joy.
yeah. I fully agree with that. Improving is also in part about leaving things away,
Yeah.
not about just adding. Traditional concept is adding stuff, but sometimes it's like taking things out
Well,
that
we
don't work
found
for you.
No, exactly. And even though Asceline and me are both not minimalists, we interviewed a
Mm,
lot of minimalists, and they're all very happy. So
yeah,
it's and we also know a lot of people who have a lot of things and many houses, and are filthy rich, and they're not necessarily more happy. So
no,
we need to, yeah, we need to realize that sometimes, the reason why a lot of these minimalists are happy is because they step out of the rat race.
yeah,
So they're like, okay, I don't want to, the reason why I'm in this rat race is because I need to pay for my car, I need to pay for my home, I need to pay for whatever it is that your lifestyle entails. But what if you cut down on that lifestyle and you have a different lifestyle that is less expensive? Then you
hmm,
don't need to work as many hours anymore. You don't need to earn as much money anymore. So you have more time. And
yeah.
that's how they become, yeah, more happy, actually.
Sounds like a great place to wrap up. I have an arrangement with Jacqueline van den Ende, previous guest. She's an investor in a better climate, or rather, she helps friends and family, offices, high net worth individuals invest in a better climate. And she wants me to make the podcast obsolete by the end of 2032. What would be your advice, Vika, to get that ball rolling?
To make it obsolete, well, we've always been saying that we want to make our platform obsolete But on the other hand, we've also noticed that things are changing constantly. So it's also, again, an end result that we talked later about. Like, oh, once everybody is vegan, once everybody stops buying so much stuff, once there is equality, there's more women in charge or in tech or whatever it is, then we're done. But it will probably change. And then there will be a new end goal, so to say,
Yeah.
or new thing on the way that you want to prioritize or put attention on. So I think it might not be necessary to make it obsolete, but go and change it along the way and still inspire people on what's needed at that moment in time. In what was it, 2032 you were talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, then probably maybe the focus is hopefully a little differently.
Yeah, I
Because
hope so too.
yeah, because we've inspired so many people along the way. So there have been changes that we want to see in society. But I mean, yeah.
Well, what I would like to add is what you're actually doing with this podcast as well. That role models are very important.
Yeah.
And giving the floor and shine some light on role models.
Yeah.
And also, diversity in role models is very important. So every woman, every person also, but every child, girl, can look up to somebody and say, okay, she did it, so I can do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really, we are in progress, to show more role models and creating a more inclusive and diverse society. But I think there's still a long way to go. But I think all the initiatives to show the people who are actually doing it, and not only focusing on success, but also on the mission, and also on what do women what do women need, because women and men are different in their
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and in their goals and in how they want to achieve what they're doing. Um, and and I think we focus a lot always on success and on growth and on money, and which is all very important.
Yeah, it's
But
all male values, competition.
it's exactly, it's male values, but um, many women want to have a business that makes them financially independent, gives them the flexibility to have their life as they want to. So not all entrepreneurs want to be like this very well, and even the word success. What is success? Are you
Yeah.
successful if you have an investor who invests like 10 millions in you? Or are you successful if you're happy and doing something that really benefits society, or and you can take care of your family if you have one? And yeah, so I think we need to find new words and new ways to look at entrepreneurship, and really also focus on the smaller entrepreneurs who are doing things very locally, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe not make it about the big bang changes, but also about smaller changes.
yeah, and I think, this podcast is about women in tech, so
Yeah.
it's different. But um, I think about, having shining this light on all women entrepreneurs who are trying to make society a better place, and also the smaller ones, and give them and tell their stories, what they're doing, and can also be very inspiring. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Asceline, Wieke,
Definitely.
thank you very much for this interview. Really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. If people want to learn more about Het Kan Wel, about your book, where would you like to send them?
To
Um,
hetkanwel.nl, our website. So I don't know if everybody can spell Dutch. Het kan wel.
Uh, I'll I'll
You'll write
include
it down probably.
yeah
Yeah,
I'll include the links in the show notes.
good.
So, Asceline,
yeah. Well,
where can
het kan
people?
wel. And also follow our social channels, and especially our newsletter, because everybody's always very happy with our newsletter. It's once a week, and we give you an overview of what's happening. and it's positive. And we really, really, really need positive news to all, see what's there and what we can do instead of looking at all the things that are going wrong. Of course, that's also important, but we also need to see what's going right, to be happy and stay positive.
Thank you. Amen to that.
Good.
Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being my guests, Asceline and Wieke. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, as I said, we'll include all the links in the show notes. And well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to episode 61 of Women Disrupting Tech with Asceline Groot and Wieke Potjer on how you can live a sustainable life. Asceline, Wieke, and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did, and we want to thank Johan Oudshorn for connecting us and helping to make this episode happen. If you'd like to learn more about Asceline, Wieke, at their platform hetkanwel, and or their new book, feel free to connect with them via the links in the show notes, and as usual, the show notes are published at womendisruptingtech.blog. On that same website, you can also become a member of the Women Disrupting Tech community. As a member, you get early access to new episodes. You also learn what I found interesting about them, which is information I do not publish anywhere else. And you're the first to learn when new blog posts come online. You can check out the show notes for a link. When you're looking for a role model to inspire your own hero's journey in tech, I invite you to check out one of the 60 other episodes of Women Disrupting Tech on Apple, Spotify, and Goodpods, and now also on YouTube. If you're a male ally and you want to help Asceline, Wieke, and the other Women Disrupting Tech to make this podcast obsolete by the end of 2032, there's a simple thing you can do. Please share the podcast with friends, family, and co-workers, because this way you give my guest a platform they need to make it happen. Finally, if you want to connect with me, reach out via dirkjan@womendisruptingtech.blog or send me a DM on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, just look up my name and you'll find me. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next episode. And until then, keep being awesome.